Do you want to increase your personal and financial freedom? Well, if so, you got to read this book, and I'm going to tell you about it right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Somewhat Scholarly. My name is Alan Hibbert, and today I'm going to tell you all about this book, Nomad Capitalist, which I just finished reading. And really, it boils down to 5 magic words. Go where you're treated best. Go where you're treated best. I love it. It's all about enhancing your personal freedom. So the subtitle here is How to Reclaim Your Freedom with Offshore Bank Accounts, Dual Citizenship, Foreign Companies, and Overseas Investment. And there's a lot to talk about. But today I'm going to go through some of the main highlights. And right off the bat, some of you may be saying, whoa, this sounds sketchy. It sounds like it's some backdoor deals, under the table, funny business. And let me tell you, everything here is 100% legal. So it's all about using the existing laws in countries all over the world to go where you're treated best. So the main objective here is to enhance your personal freedom. So you can live where you want, travel where you want, work where you want, keep more of your money, basically pay less in taxes, and grow it even faster. So if you're like me, you live in your home country. I'm a US citizen, I'm a US resident, I pay taxes in the United States. I don't work, but if I worked, it would be in the United States. And really every aspect of my life is in the country that I was born in, but it doesn't have to be that way. So you could be a citizen of really any country in the world, and you can live in any other country in the world. You can pay taxes in any country you want, you can run a business in any country you want, and you can invest in any country you want. So all of these aspects of your life can be in different countries if you want. Of course, they could be in the same country, but you can mix and match as you choose. So the whole idea of the nomad capitalist lifestyle is stepping back, looking at the world and saying, okay, this is a buffet. What do I want? What works for me? What is going to make me happiest? What is going to make me feel most free? What is going to allow me to keep more of my money and grow it even faster? So it's a beautiful thing. So first up, offshore bank accounts. How might offshore bank accounts help you? First of all, higher interest. If you're like me and you live in the United States and you bank in the United States, you know that you're getting 0% interest. And in some countries, especially in Europe, you're actually getting negative interest, which means you pay the bank to hold your money for you. But in many countries around the world, you can deposit your money in their banks and earn 5% interest, 6%, 7% interest, something that's more normal. So even if you get an offshore bank account just so that you earn more interest, that's still a pretty good deal. Secondly, with an offshore bank account, you get access to more investment opportunities. So for example, if you want to buy real estate in a foreign country, you might need a bank account in that country. It's not always the case, but sometimes it is. Furthermore, if you want to invest in the stock market of another country, it's very helpful to have a bank account in that country. And oftentimes, public stock markets and even private deals have a better potential investment return in emerging markets than they would in a developed market like the United States. And finally, you might want an offshore bank account because of safety reasons and a form of diversification. So you might not realize it, but in the United States, about 7 or 8 banks actually default and go bankrupt every year. And in particularly bad years, it might be hundreds or even thousands of banks that go bankrupt. In fact, during the Great Depression, over 4,000 banks in the United States went bankrupt in a single year. Nowadays, we only have about 4,500 banks, and many of them are in worse financial shape than the banks during the Great Depression. Contrast that with a country like Singapore, which has existed for 43 years, and in their entire history, they have had 0 banks default. 43 years in a row, they've had 0 banks default. So I don't really want to be all doom and gloom, but the reality is the banks that you're using might not be the safest banks in the world. They might not even be in the top 10 or the top 50. So with a little bit of research and a little bit of effort, you might be able to open an offshore bank account and dramatically increase the safety of your money. Number 2, why might you want dual citizenship? Well, the first reason is travel. In fact, this hit home for me personally last year in 2020 when my fiance and I had a trip to Europe planned with her parents. Unfortunately, because of the COVID pandemic, Europe closed its borders to US citizens. However, if we had a second citizenship, in other words, a second passport, we could have potentially entered the Eurozone and still gone on our vacation. And it seems like the world is moving more and more in this direction of choosing some countries to be on the white list and other countries to be on the black list, and basically having preferential treatment for people with certain passports. So it just makes sense as we move forward into 2021, 2022, and so on, that you have more than one passport in your name. The second reason you might want dual citizenship is for taxes. Now, having a second passport doesn't automatically make your taxes go down. In fact, it could make your taxes go up if you're not careful. However, it could be part of a long-term tax reduction strategy, and it's way too complicated for me to explain the details in a short video like this. But the main idea is, if you have more passports, you have more options as long as you do it strategically. So how do you get dual citizenship? Well, there's basically 4 ways. The first way is citizenship by descent. In other words, you have a parent or a grandparent or sometimes a great-grandparent that was a citizen of a country, and that country allows you to get citizenship by descent. So for example, if your grandfather had Polish citizenship, you could probably apply for Polish citizenship. And these types of programs are more common in Europe than anywhere else. The second way to get citizenship is citizenship by investment. So in other words, you pay a country a certain amount of money, which could be $50,000, $100,000, $500,000, or even more, and you basically buy a passport straight up. Now sometimes you give them the money, they give you the passport, and that's the end of the transaction. Other times you put the money into government bonds and you hold them for a certain number of years that are pre-specified, and then at the end of that period they give you the money back. Another option is to invest in real estate. If you buy a property of a certain dollar threshold, the government will give you a passport as long as you hold that property a certain number of years. For example, in Turkey, if you buy a piece of real estate valued at more than $250,000 and hold it at least 3 years, you get a Turkish passport. The third way to get dual citizenship is citizenship by naturalization. This is the more familiar way, where you basically go and move to another country and live there for a certain number of years, and you learn the language, and after a certain amount of time, you take a citizenship test, and if you pass, you become a citizen. These types of programs can range from 3 years to 5 years to 10 years, and some are even longer than that. And each program has a different requirement for how much time during each year you actually spend in that country. For some, it's just 1 day a year. For others, it's more than half the year. For some, it's 9 or 10 months out of the year. The fourth way to get dual citizenship is citizenship by exceptionalism. In other words, you're such an exceptional person that they're going to make an exception for you. An example of this would be like an Olympic athlete or a famous celebrity or a Nobel Prize winner. If you have some exceptional achievement in the world, certain countries might be willing to just grant you a passport. This is probably not going to be an option for most of us. Number 3, foreign companies. Why might you want a foreign company? Well, the first reason is taxes. If your company is in certain jurisdictions, you could potentially pay 0 taxes. For example, the Cayman Islands. Well, the second reason is employment benefits, and this really refers to multiple things. First of all, you could conduct geo-arbitrage, which refers to using different parts of the world to run your business. Most commonly, you would hire labor in very cheap parts of the world, and you would sell your product in very expensive parts of the world. That way you can generate a lot of revenue while keeping your costs low. Another employment benefit is actually employing yourself as an employee of your own company. Number 4, overseas investments. Why might you want overseas investment? Well, the first reason is diversification. So if this appeals to you, you could diversify your investments in a completely different geography, which is also in a completely different currency, and it's also subject to a completely different political party. A second reason is the risk-reward trade-off. A lot of times in emerging markets, you get a better risk-reward trade-off than you would in your home country. A third reason to have overseas investments is actually a path to citizenship. So in other words, an overseas investment might help you become a citizen by investment. And as a fun fact, there are actually 2 kinds of assets that are non-reportable for US citizens. The first is vaulted gold overseas. So if you have gold vaulted somewhere overseas, you don't have to tell the IRS about it. The second is property that you own in your own name that you do not generate cash flow from. So if you own a property on the shores of some beach in Mexico, you don't have to tell the IRS, unless of course you rent it out, in which case you do. So guys, that's a really high-level overview of how you can enhance your personal freedom, keep more of your money, and grow it even faster. So I'll put links to this book as well as the Nomad Capitalist website and YouTube channel in the description. I hope you enjoyed, and in the next video, I'm going to show you my personal strategy to live around the world, pay zero taxes, and basically do whatever I want all the time. So stay tuned for that one. Thanks for watching.